Welcome, Therese. Once again, please share.
Thank you, Pamela. It's always good to be with you. It's always good to share teachings and experiences on the spiritual path. I am happy today to talk to you. I know you had mentioned talking to you about the songs of divine love, the music that came forth. This was well, it started in 2012, so that would make it about a 13-year project so far. And it was a very interesting situation the way it all came about. I was prompted for a number of months to get a guitar, and I had never learned guitar or played guitar. And so one day I went to the thrift store actually, and there was a beautiful guitar there. And I said, well, if it's meant for me, it was an auction. So I said, well, if it's meant for me, it'll come to me. And I just felt presence of Jesus working with me on this. And so a couple days later, I got a call that I had won the guitar. So then I brought the guitar home and I started to uh, learn to play some basic chords. And so practiced with a CD-ROM for a while, for maybe a few months, and then started to get little inklings of music coming together. And so the journey was first you learn to play, then you learn to play other people's songs, and then uh, I had the sense that some music wanted to come through. And it was interesting because I had been friends with Dorothy Lee Fulton, Messenger of Music for the Masters for Mother Mary for the Great White Brotherhood. She's also known as Lady Edelweiss, and she had told me one time that that music would come through me after she had made her transition, after she had moved on into the octaves of light. And I, at the time, I didn't even play music. I had some basic, very little training in piano from when I was like age 5, and I hadn't really picked up music again. And though I always loved music, and then after she made her transition, I had gotten a piano and I started to play piano little by little. It was all very intuitive. I would sit down in the evening and I would start to just play. And little by little, I literally self-taught. And I know this was coming from past life attainment because it wasn't like I was reading music or anything like that. Though I had some basic training in music reading, but it wasn't my forte at all. I always had actually a certain aversion to music theory for whatever reason. I've never been able to get over it yet, where I would have a certain blockage, but I was able to intuitively play and sing. And so what happened was that the song started to come through a little, and I first began with the song. The first song was actually a song called Sophia, which is a song to the Mother of Wisdom, the Divine Mother of Wisdom. And it was a song for the youth. And then I Am the Light of the Heart. I felt compelled to put that one to music. It was a song initially a mantra, a little poem decree by Saint Germain, and then that expanded. And then after that, for like I would say about 3 weeks' time, these songs just came pouring in. And a lot of them were coming in as thoughts and ideas, just congealing. This one song, Highway Back to God, I was driving in a storm and the song just came in, like I started getting the idea of the tune and the words, right? And then other songs, I would have more of a concept of them and I would sit down and try to write them. And some of these songs were absolutely extraordinary to me. The song Cast You Out of the Temple, it is literally a chronicling of the book Reincarnation, the Missing Link in Christianity. And the song goes through all of those. And when I would see these concepts come together so beautifully and so with a lot of fun. The masters talk about fun as being an important part of the path, having fun. In fact, there's a master called Fun Way. Um, and so this was very, very beautiful to me. And so then for a while I thought, oh, I have to have a song to Krishna. I have to have a song to Krishna. And there was no song to Krishna forthcoming until one night I woke up with these concepts coming in from the etheric plane, and they came in as the letters of the song and with a little bit more, but um, it was basically the song was coming in through letters. So it's always a walk of faith to then go and sit at your desk and say, okay, this song is coming in, and I'm going to be able somehow to capture it. And so I would sit down at my desk, and then sure enough, the song comes down in the most beautiful way. And I had a similar experience when I was writing my poems, which is mostbeautifulpoems.com. I about 176 poems, and they came in a similar way. It's part co-creation with God, meaning my my consciousness is actively engaged in it, and part of it is inspiration, whether it's a word or a concept or something, and I have to do the work to put it together. And so it's a very joyful experience because it's very ethereal, and so when the song to Krishna came through, I felt like that was a complete gift from God. Um, and so there were many other songs. There's a total of 52 here, and the last one I did was a couple years later, and it was a Christmas song, and it was after these other songs had been completed, and that was a very, very beautiful Christmas carol that's never been heard before. And that one I actually did on the piano, but then tried to transcribe it. It was one of those things where had to learn a lot of different processes, because when all these songs came together and I had them on guitar, and I wrote them down, wrote down the chords, wrote down the words, but then I knew they had to be orchestrated somehow, and it had to be refined. And so I started working on that project, and I had a couple of friends who helped me, and and we started working on the orchestration of the songs, and then had to learn how to master songs. And at first I thought, oh, the songs came in a few weeks' time. It'll just take a few weeks to get them together. But it took 13 years, and it was a tremendous labor and labor of love. And I learned so much. I had to learn how to do mastering, work with sound engineers too. I had to learn how to, in fact, one time for my first mastering session, I went to Helena in Montana, and on my way back, I was almost, or maybe it was on my way there, I think it was on my way there, trying to find the place with the GPS on a dirt road. I almost got run over by a train. And I mean, for real, I came so close to being run over by a train that was going by without any, where the road didn't shut down, and it was like rural Montana, and that was really, really close call. So there were different things that happened. I had to continuously persevere through the project, which I think is what we all have to do when we're given something from God, an assignment. We have to really persevere. I felt the sponsorship and presence of Jesus through all the songs, and so it turns out the songs made 4 beautiful albums, and I was given this matrix of 4 times 13 songs, and 13 is the number of the Christ in the center of the 12, and the 4 are the 4 archetypes of being: Father, Mother, Son, and Holy Spirit. And so the first album, which is called Shrine of Love, is dedicated to Sanat Kumara, to the Father. There are a number of songs about Sanat Kumara and Shambhala and the Ruby Ray path. And it's a very Ruby Ray path that takes us back to the I am that I am and the presence of the Father through Sanat Kumara. And then the second album, called Pearl of Great Price, really ties us into the mother, God as mother, and um, and it's very much an Eastern album. There are more Eastern songs. There's a song, a beautiful song, one of my favorite French songs, which is from an opera that is normally sung by tenors, the Pearl Fishers, and it's the song of the goddess coming in. The goddess, it's the veneration, the worship of the goddess, the beauty of the goddess. And I think this whole album speaks to that. There are songs to the Divine Mother from a Buddhist perspective. There are the Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisvaha. There's a song to Surya, Eastern song, which is the Gayatri mantra. Um, there are very beautiful Eastern elements to this album, and of course the song to Lord Krishna I put on that album, and other songs to the Divine Mother and to the Goddess. And so that is the second album, Pearl of Great Price. And then moving forward, the last two albums I had to completely orchestrate on my own. And so it was like jumping off of a diving board and having faith that somehow things will work out, a high diving board. And so the third album, which is called Walking on the Water, is a celebration of personal Christhood. And the song Walking on the Water was interesting because it's really about the story of Peter, who falls in the water and asks Jesus to hold his hand. And it's really about when we are intended to walk on the water of our life and master our emotions, and we don't always make it, right? So we need the master's help. And so that's the song Walking on the Water. And then there are many more songs there. There's the one I mentioned earlier, We Cast You Out of the Temple, which is basically a chronicling of Christian history for the last 2,000 years. There's songs to Jesus. There's one song where I sing in Aramaic also. And some of these songs, my children joined me. They were willing to help me, and I really appreciate that. Having their voices made a beautiful difference. It just brought in another element. So Walking on the Water has a lot of songs, including the one I know you love called I'll Run Away to Heaven. And it's really about helping people to discover and walk on the path and not falter, and what Mother used to always tell us, to keep on keeping on. The last album, called Archways of Infinity, is a celebration of the Holy Spirit, the divine girl child. It has elements that you could say are more new agey. There's a song, Hero Universe, I Am Grateful, about nature and life. There's a song about there are just different songs about Archways of Infinity. Actually celebrates the mystical path of Islam as the archways and the artwork that we find in the most beautiful Islamic traditions, which I was always happy to see, And so, of course, we go back to the Taj Mahal, we go back to various buildings and places. There was even one in Helena, Montana, with beautiful, beautiful artwork. And so I think it's important to have that, to remember that that is also part of the Muslim world, especially when we have so many terrible things that are going on the planet. And we know that Islam is the largest religion in terms of people on the planet. And so there's a couple of songs that tie into that. There's one called Inshallah. Actually, that was on album 3, which is about celebrating the glory to God in both from the Islamic tradition and the Christian tradition and the Judaic tradition. I actually have a song there too that is about bringing peace to the Holy Land, bringing peace to Gaza, bringing peace for the children, and having the stopping of war, We know that Jesus's retreat, the Master Jesus has a retreat with Mother Mary right over the Holy Land. And so all of this is going on right under his retreat. And so we're trying to bring that peace back in, the peace between religions and faiths. And so this last album to me has a pink tone to it. If you wanted to assign a color to the various albums, I would say the first one is definitely ruby. The second one is definitely more turquoise, and the third one would be maybe gold for the Christ consciousness, and the last one would be like a violet, purple, pink. Um, and so that's how I see it. These songs all make up a very beautiful mandala, and I think that if you listen to them and read the words, you will see just how much can be given to you and to your soul through them. I have to say, one song, Shrine of Love, which is what the first album is about, came from a little invocation or decree by Elizabeth Clare Prophet given from Sanat Kumara. And so the song takes up the words and the concepts of that and brings it to a whole new place, which is, I want to worship at the shrine of love. And I think that's what we're all really looking for, is that shrine of love. We need that love, no matter what faith, no matter what path we come from. We're looking for that love, and the song does mention Sanat Kumara because he's the Ancient of Days, and because we know that throughout the planet, in all different faiths and religions, people have a sense of him in some form. And he is the, Dorothy Lee used to tell me, he is the God for our planet. She would say to me, whenever you read the Lord thy God in the Old Testament, that was Sanat Kumara. so I definitely wanted to bring that up as one of the key elements of these songs. Yes, but to do so in a way that hopefully will be more modern. The other thing I would say about this music is that it was clear to me that this was to be a bridge between what people are listening to in the world and what you know, what people would consider high and holy classical music, or the, you know, things that are definitely straight from the highest levels of the etheric plane. These songs definitely came from the etheric plane, but I felt like they're a bridge. They're a bridge. And you know, it was interesting because there was a dictation by Sanat Kumara where he said that he will sing through those who cannot really truly sing and who cannot, and I don't remember the exact quote, but when I saw that quote, I knew that this was for me, because I had never been trained in music. I had never been trained in singing. I had never been trained in any of this. And here was my job to bring this music in as a walk of faith. The other thing that I would say is that this music, I had the grace to put together during the hardest times of my life. And this was times where, you know, I went through a very difficult divorce. I had to move. I had situations with children and everything else. I mean, it was very, very difficult times. It was also very difficult times on my personal spiritual path, where the forces of darkness, you could say, were trying to really separate me from the vibration and the consciousness of God in the highest way, you know. And so what I found is that listening to this music again and again and working with it, because I had to work with, I can't even tell you how many hundreds or thousands of times some of these songs had to be finessed. But in the end, I mean, I can't even tell you, it was countless hours. I don't know if it was 20,000 hours, 50,000 hours, 100,000 hours, a million hours. I can't tell you, but I can tell you it was a lot of hours that went into this project. And it was an enormous refining for me. And it always has brought me back to a place in my Christ self and in the masters who I believe are behind this music. I know that this music and this project is not perhaps at the level of people who are in great classical companies, or who have had a tremendous amount of musical training. What was interesting is the other day I tried to pick up my guitar again after leaving off it for a few years, and I couldn't remember a thing. I couldn't even remember the basic chords anymore. I said, well, isn't that something? This window opened up for me, and I did what I was supposed to do with it. And I brought these to completion. I believe they're complete now and as good as they can be. And it's truly an offering of love from my soul to God, and from my higher self and the masters to those who will partake in them. And then the window shut down again. It was very interesting. Um, you're just not attached. I'm not attached. What I would say is that some of these songs are very soft and gentle, like I Am the Light of the Heart. It's a very soothing, almost lullaby quality. And then some of them, like Babaji, have a real intense rhythm. I mean, they're very rhythmic. It's a beautiful rhythm, but they're very rhythmic. And my friend Marius did a lot of tablas on some of these. There was one song, the song to Estrella, I was using very powerful native drums. It's a very different kind of a experience. And at the time, I thought, oh my goodness, if I could only have a huge orchestra to really play the song the way I'm hearing it. But I had to do with what I had. And I think that overall, these songs come along and they represent and reproduce what was intended quite well. They're quite faithful to their intent. And so you'll find songs that you might want to dance to, and then you'll find songs that you would probably just want to sleep to or meditate to. These are songs that are definitely um, amenable to the youth of the world. I think they're very young sounding. It's not like going into an old temple or something where young people would say, oh, this is not for me. I've had young people and my kids and others listen to some of these and they're like, yeah, I like it. Like they could put it on their playlist, and I think that's really important too, because when I see different songs in churches and all that, it kind of stays in the church, or it takes a certain caliber of soul to be willing to listen to that in general ongoing. I certainly do. But what I'm saying is that when you contrast it to what's out there, what kids are listening to, and just the general, even the general 60s songs, which most people have moved on from, but um, we needed something that was more of a bridge, I believe. And so anyway, that's my offering, but it certainly doesn't compromise on the holiness or the great depth in the words. There's a great depth in the words, and that's why I call them Aquarian Age folk songs, because it reminded me of some of these songs from the 60s, like go ahead and cheat your neighbor, go ahead and hate your neighbor, go ahead and cheat a friend, do it in the name of heaven, you can justify it in the end. It's the 110 Soldier song, and some of the songs from the Seekers, also beautiful songs from the 60s. So that was when there was a certain opening to the lower etheric plane, where some of this music would come in to try to keep the souls from going down into the astral plane, which is where most of the music today is coming from, unfortunately. Not all, though. There are some people who are doing good work with music. So I guess I would conclude with saying that music is such an important thing. Um, I had a dream when I first began this project and I remember it like it was so vivid. And and I was standing with a few people in the dream, and Mother Mary was with us. And it was a message or an interaction with the Mahachohan, who's the representative of the Holy Spirit. And he was basically explaining, and I got this in this dream, that about how all of the planets function through the music of the spheres. The music of the spheres is what the entire universe is operating from. In fact, I mean, not just this galaxy, but all the galaxies and solar systems. It's a magnificent music that we don't even hear with our outer ear. And that Earth was at a crossroad where, depending on the music would that she was putting forth, the musical tone would determine whether or not, she could rejoin fully the music of the spheres. It was almost like going off key somehow. And so what I was also shown, what we were shown in this dream, or what I'm calling a dream, but it was really some kind of an inner level teaching, was that there would be many, many souls that would be going, would either be strong in God or going down the drain. It was shown to me as a drain. It was like water circling a drain. And I remember Dictation by Alpha, where he mentioned that. He said that if our allegiance to fallen ones is really strong, or even if it isn't, their influence can be so strong that if we're not very careful, it can pull us down and it'll take us down the drain. And it was this sense of a large drain. And I remember in the dream being shown, for example, Taylor Swift, and there were a few others. And I was like, and at that time she was just beginning her musical career. And so anyway, the point is that everyone would have to make a choice of which way they would go in terms of their music. And we mustn't underestimate the power of music, because music is the power of construction or destruction of worlds. And we know that the fallen ones used music on Atlantis, the dark music, the dark beats that we find in rock music and in other rap, etc. All that stuff became the sinking of Atlantis. It contributed to it. We've seen scientific studies that can show that if you put a plant inside a room and you're playing Beethoven, the plant will thrive. If you put it in an environment where heavy metal music is playing, the plant will die. And so it's the same for our cells, it's the same for our bodies, it's the same for our consciousness, and it's the same on a planetary level. And so we have to understand that everything is vibration, and God has a certain vibration and a certain standard, and music is a very big part of it. The Elohim of music is the Elohim of the all-seeing eye of God. It's the fifth ray, which Mother Mary serves under also. She is the archeye of music. And so we have to bring our consciousness back up to the all-seeing eye of God, which is the third eye, and not have the misuse of music and rhythm. Rhythm is at the level of the base of the spine. The base of the spine chakra is the one that corresponds to drums. And I was just having this conversation with my son because he likes to play drums. And I said, there are a lot of good rhythms and there are a lot of not so good rhythms. And you have to understand, because it is the base. And what is the base? The base is our sacred fire. The base is the Kundalini. It's the sacred fire that is intended to basically buoy our soul up to the ascension, like a beautiful waterfall, going up. And if we misuse that light, we have tremendous potential karma and destructivity. It's the life force being misused. And so when we see in modern day music all of these symbols of triangles going down, which we also see in some of the homosexual movements and other situations, they use the downward triangle as their symbol. And that is basically the light going down and not coming back up. And so it's an act of rebellion. We want to have the figure flow between the light going up and the light going down, where it meets in the heart and forms that Star of David that is the Shaktona, the Hindu Shaktona. And it's really about the birth of Christ. The energy is ascending from our base of the spine. The energy is descending from our higher self. But we don't want it to be one of those things where the energies descending from our higher self are continuously thwarted or perverted or sullied or tainted to where God's energy through us is becoming used for evil. That's really what evil is. It's taking the energies of God and turning them into darkness. And so we are, as instruments of God, as children of God, as sons and daughters of God, intend to reverse that. And basically, we're accountable for all the light and energy that comes from our higher self, from our God self. And we are, just like in the parable of the talents, we are required um, to qualify it with our free will in a constructive way and not misqualify it in a destructive way. And so music is very, very important. We saw that, we understand from the teachings that a number of souls that had not incarnated since the last days of Atlantis were allowed to incarnate again in the 70s. I believe it was, I think in 1969 was the first year that they came back. And so these souls came back again to have another final opportunity to choose to do right with their qualification of energy. And most of them went into rock bands, heavy metal bands, rap bands, et cetera, and just dark, dark, dark stuff. And so it's time for people to say, enough is enough. We don't want to listen to this anymore. I remember as a child we were surrounded with rock music like everyone else in my generation. And I remember not really liking it. Like I didn't really like it. I would listen to it because it was popular. And I was like, I should like Michael Jackson. I should like all these people. I don't really like him, but it's the popular thing to do. It's what everybody does. I should listen to them, right? So I would do that for a while, but I never really liked them. My soul wasn't really into it. I was just trying to conform to the standards of my generation, And but when I would listen to something like more beautiful, like some of the beautiful songs of West Side Story or others, I'd be like, ah, I like this. So it's like being true to our real self, being true to our soul, and understanding that little by little we can become more accustomed to the dark stuff and get more addicted to it and acclimatized to it. And so I remember having a conversation when I first found the teachings where um, minister said, well, I said to them, how do you know what's good and what's not good with music? Because I was listening at that time when I found the teachings to a lot of 60s music again, like different things that were 60s like. And I said, how do you know? Because some of these things I was quite attached to, like Moon Shadow, or other songs, Morning is Broken, and some of the Beatles songs, Let It Be, etc. And so what she said to me was, she said, look, the best thing you can do is fast from music for like a month or so, 4 to 6 weeks, just fast from all of it. And then come back to it after a month fast. And sure enough, after I came back after a month fast, I found that some of these songs, even if they didn't have the wrong rhythm or dark words, were not at the vibration of some of the teachings that I had encountered and been working with. And so I decided to fast more and to really move into classical and into the beautiful classical, because some classical is not nice. The beautiful classical, beautiful operas, the keynotes of the masters, right? And then what I found, you fast forward many, many more years, and then you have children and you have different situations where you need to expand your sphere again a little bit so that you can include more people, and so that's what it was, without, I believe, lowering the standards, but just like when I hear John Denver, I hear God in John Denver. I believe he was sponsored by God, by the masters, and others. And so I know even Mother, when she had the Paradise Players playing music at the, in the 80s, it was like it was to bring in another aspect of music. And so anyway, this was a band that was playing more cowboy-like songs, but it was fun. And so there's one really wonderful cowboy band that was in Jackson Hole that I like, the Bar J Wranglers. They had some really good cowboy music. So what I'm saying is that God can come through all different kinds of music. I mean, we see even in the gospel music. I was listening to this incredible gospel song called God is My Rock. And it was what they called Negro spiritual. It was a slave song, and magnificent, magnificent music. And I really love the African American music. The so that was done in a holy way. I won't do the other stuff, but I love that. I went to concert last year. It was students singing from a choir of an African American college. I don't remember the name now. I'm sorry, I don't remember, but they sang the most extraordinary gospel music, the most extraordinary songs. It was like what you would consider traditional African American music, and it was magnificent. So much God coming through. But then when they went on into the Motown stuff, and then they went on into the other stuff, the light left, the angels left. And I thought, wow, this is really something to see how this same group of people could literally touch the hem of heaven with their voices and their music and their talent. And then the next minute it was gone and they were just, like having a very worldly musical experience. And I wondered if their souls could even tell the difference. I mean, I'm sure the soul probably can, but their outer human self probably not. And so we're in a situation where there's a lot of mixing of musics, and we have to have discernment to see what ties us in, to ties the soul into God. And I would say call to Mother Mary, because she would know. She's the Queen of Music, and she can help you make that determination. And I strongly encourage beautiful music coming from every culture. I've been tuning back into the lifetime of Orpheus. Mother told us Orpheus was an embodiment of Gautama Buddha. And Orpheus was a songwriter. He went through ancient Greece writing songs to the gods. That was his job. He wrote songs to the gods, and he had a mystery school based on music. And it was very lyrical, and it was very much what you could call folk songs. I mean, it wasn't something more complex. It was very, very simple and pure. And so he wrote those songs. He wrote a lot of poetry too. And so I've been thinking about that. We don't hear much about him, but he was a very important figure in ancient Greece. And so this idea of singing to the gods with a lyre, you have David, King David, who sang his psalms with a harp, and other masters. I mean, we like to work with El Morya, who's a very disciplinarian master, but in his past life, he was Thomas More, who wrote the harp that uh, hung on Tara's wall. I'm trying to remember now. Anyway, the point is the harp of Tara's wall. So, so we see that pink side, love side in the masters. I mentioned here David is the past life of Jesus, and Orpheus is the past life of Gautama Buddha, and Thomas More is the past life of Helmoria, and this importance of music and beauty in the masters in their past lives, and what they bring. It's like their pink undercoat, right? Their pink undercoat, and so anyway, I just wanted to say that this music, Songs of Divine Love, is a part of that. It's a part of that desire and that lineage. And even Yogananda, he wrote all these songs. Yogananda did, Paramahansa Yogananda. They're beautiful songs that he wrote. He just wrote with a harmonium. So I hope you enjoy the music, songsofdivinelove.com. I spent quite a bit of time putting them in video form to give them video feel, and that was also very, very important in bringing these songs and preserving them for the future. And so they're beautiful videos with beautiful footage. A lot of it was borrowed from other people, and some of it was my own video footage. And I think it makes a very nice compilation. It's like it's a it's a mystical experience, and so I would say that yes, check them out for yourself and keep an open mind. And if it's like something that you haven't heard before, that's because it hasn't been done before. And I do believe it was a gift from heaven, and I'm so thankful that I was able to not only to capture it and work with it, but to benefit directly from it. Because like I said, it brought me through some of the most difficult times of my life, and helped me to stay tethered to the arc of the contact with the masters, and even with our beloved Son Kumara through Jesus. So yes, do you have any other questions?
I would just like to play one song,
Yes, go ahead. Which one did you want to play?
Runaway to Heaven.
Okay, so Runaway to Heaven was an interesting song. It came in very quickly, and it's really about the battle that the soul faces with the not self, or the devil, or the Antichrist within us and without. And it's a very interesting song, because somebody said to me, "Oh, well, you're really going to get in trouble now if you start singing about the devil." And I said, what am I going to do? Like, this song is coming forth, and I am so thankful that you appreciate it, Pamela, because it's really a blueprint of overcoming that we all need to overcome, and it's on the third album, Walking on the Water.
It is.
Late one night, trying to pick yet another fight. Got down on my knees to the Lord I prayed, and He said He'd come for me on another day. Go away now, you get out of my face, 'cause I'm calling down the power of redeeming grace. Tired of your lies and your catchy deceptions. If you come back after me, I will run away to heaven. The devil came back and tried to be nice, but it was plain to see his heart was cold as ice. So I got down on my knees to the Lord I prayed, and He said He would be back on a better day. Go away now, you get out of my hair, 'cause I've got a date with God and I'm halfway there. Tired of your lies and your catchy deceptions. If you still come after me, I will run away to heaven. The devil came again like he did with Eve. He said I wouldn't die if I tried a little evil. So I dropped down on my knees to the Lord I prayed, and He said He would come back on the final day. Go away now, 'cause I'm a lost
Thank you. That was wonderful. I love your songs.
I'm so thankful. It's so wonderful to have someone who loves my songs. I love it. And I love my songs too. I do, because they are coming from my heart, and they're something that my soul will leave on this planet as a testimony to overcoming, as a testimony to perseverance and overcoming. I think that, you know, when I was a child, I remember going to a Catholic priest on Isle La Motte and St. Anne's Shrine, and there was a sign on the door that really grabbed my attention. I must have been like 7. And the sign said, "Be patient with me, God's not finished with me yet." And I often think about that. I often think about that, like how God keeps working with us, and we have to give ourselves patience and patience with others, and we're on this path of overcoming and transmutation. And I was just reading recently a quote by Saint Germain where he said, you don't have to believe in or give power to the human in people, but you can always invoke the God in them. And so we invoke the God in each other, and I do believe that this music will help you if you let it help you, and that it will that it's just an offering. It's an offering of goodwill. It's an offering that I felt the presence of the Master Jesus very closely with me as I was working on these. I felt like this was an assignment that came from him. I really do. When I first sat down and started writing these songs, and like I said, body of 52 songs that comes together in 3 weeks time. It's definitely a heavenly sponsored event on some level. It came from his causal body, I believe. And that's why the picture of Jesus is behind me with every song I sing. But it was to also celebrate all of the various faiths. There's every faith is in these songs. There's songs that are more Judaic. There's songs that are more Muslim. There's songs that are Buddhist, Hindu, of course, Christian. All of the major songs are there. There's even songs to the violet fire, like Unspeakable Fire, and that can also be Zoroastrianism. I mean, there are songs to all of the different avenues that people have walked to get back to God, and Jesus is the center of it all. Jesus is the open door which no man can shut, and so he stands there with me as we walk through each of these pathways and songs to come home to him, to come home through Christ to the Father, to the I am that I am. And we're embracing the Mother, and we're doing so as the student or apprentice or follower of Jesus in the path of personal Christhood. And we're walking with the Holy Spirit, loving our planet, loving our world. I'm just going to share this. It's so interesting coincidence. My daughter played for me a video of, I believe it was a chimpanzee or a gorilla. Maybe it was a gorilla he was born in 1970, I believe, or was he from 1970? Anyway, the point is that this big ape was using sign language to communicate. He was very intelligent. And his last message to the world was about how the animals could love the humans, and they could see what the humans were doing, and he called the humans, stupid. That's the word he used, translated from sign language. And he was asking us to love our earth, to love our planet, to love nature, to love the animals, and to love each other. It was really a message of love. And I thought to myself, isn't that amazing? This is coming through an ape, that he has that level of awareness. And it was definitely a level of awareness, that of observation. And I thought to myself, I said to my daughter, it seems like when we go to the zoo, maybe they're watching us more than we're watching them. But the point is that I remember a dictation where the master said that the animals in the mountains around the ranch were behaving in a more godlike fashion sometimes than humans. And so it's just something to consider, the the love of elemental life, the love of nature, the love of the larger ecosystem that we are a part of. And we are intended to be role models for them, to help them gain threefold flames and earn them. We're intended to be one in the body of God, and to be like wayshowers. We were also entrusted to be their guardians. I mean, that's even in the book of Genesis. And so when I think of this love of nature, love for the planet, love for life, I think of it as we're to be good stewards and transcend what would prevent us from doing so. And of course, good stewards with each other. So that's about all I can share on that one. But I was mightily impressed. I really was. It's like when we see dolphins or whales or other creatures of great intelligence, I see my own little puppy and how much he teaches me about God's love. You know, I said to him this morning, you have brought me God's love and you're doing a great job. I said, I'm giving you 5 stars, because he really has incarnated a level of love that they're just here to do. So anyway, I don't want to digress, but I am thankful and I send them our love. And I know Jesus gave the elementals his resurrection flame to give them that sense of hope, because our planet really needs that. So I dedicate all of this music also to the raising up of elemental life. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.